Hi everyone, this is S. Venkatesh. I am from CSGD and today we're gonna discuss file allocation methods and file allocation methods. The allocation methods define how the files are stored in the disk blocks. There are three main disk space or file allocation methods and they are contiguous allocation, linked allocation and indexed allocation. The main idea behind these methods is to provide efficient disk space utilization, and fast access to the file blocks. And in the coming slides, we're going to discuss one by one what is continuous allocation and linked allocation and or maybe indexed allocation. First, we're going to discuss contiguous allocation. In this scheme, each file occupies a contiguous set of blocks on the disk. For example, if a file requires n blocks and is given a block to block B as the starting location, then the blocks assigned to the file will be B, comma, B plus 1, comma, B plus 2, and so on, B plus n. This means that the given the starting block address and the length of the file in terms of the blocks required, we can determine the blocks occupied by the file. The directory entry for a file with contiguous allocation contains mainly address of the starting block and length of the allocation portion. Now, by considering an example, uh, we can get a clarity about we can get a clarity about what is a contiguous allocation. And for example, we can take a file mail in the following figure starts from the block 19 with the length equals to 6 blocks. uh, Means therefore it occupies 19 comma 20 comma 21 22 23 blocks. By seeing the which see in the directory the files are count, file names are count, tr, mail, list, f, and by seeing the picture in the disk we can consist of a files are count, tr, mail, and list f. And the count file may be start from the 0th block and its length about 2 blocks. Side by side means the count file may be uh, stored in the disk by continuously 2 blocks. And the next the next and f, for example, if you take a file name f and it the file f is starting with the sixth block, and from 6th to 7th, that means 2 blocks it will be occupying the place in the disk. And for example, if you take mail and the mail is starting from the 19th block and continuously it occupies 1 2 3 4 5 5 blocks. See, and for identifying in the directory, it mainly consists of three attributes. What is first one is file name, and the second one is starting of the file, and the third one is length. How many blocks that the file be occupied in the disk structure. And the next one we're gonna discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages may be involved in the continuous allocation. First of all, advantages. Both the sequential and direct access are supported by this. For direct access, the address of the kth block of the file, which starts at block B, can easily be obtained as an B plus k. And the second advantage of this type of allocation is this is extremely fast since the number of seeks are minimal because of continuous allocation of file blocks. And the disadvantages of continuous allocation are this method suffers from both internal and external fragmentation. This makes it inefficient in terms of memory utilization. And the second one, in increasing the file size is difficult because it depends upon the availability of continuous memory at a particular instance. And the next one we're gonna discuss a linked list allocation. And in linked list allocation, each file is a linked list of disk blocks which not be continuous. Means for meanwhile in continuous allocation the file can be stored as a continuous blocks. But in case of linked list allocation, there is no need not to be continuous. The disk blocks can be scattered anywhere on the disk, and the directory entry contains a pointer to the starting and the ending file block. Each block contains a pointer to the next node occupied by the file. This means in linked list allocation, block by block, there need to be a pointer to connect the one block to another block. And For example, the file zip in the following image shows how the blocks are randomly distributed. The last block 25 contains 1, indicating a null pointer and does not point to any other block. By observing this image, uh, see, before I have said in continuous memory allocation, the file can be stored in the side by side, that means continuous. And in case of a linked list allocation, the blocks can be the blocks can be connected by the pointers. So the file need not to be um, file need not to be stored in continuous blocks. Uh, the starting in the directory we gonna have three attributes. One is file name, and other one is the file where it starts, and the second one is end of the file. The blocks can be interconnected by the pointers. First, for example, if we take a file name as zip, the starting of the zip file is ninth, um, sorry, ninth block. See, that indicates the ninth block is 1, and it can be ends at the block 25. Uh, End of the file by indicating placing the -1 in the block 25. See, in linked list allocation, in the end of the file can be indicated by the -1. And uh, now, advantages and disadvantages of the linked list allocation of the files are: first, advantage. This is very flexible in terms of a file size. File size can be increased easily since the system does not have to look for a continuous chunk of memory. This method does not suffer from external fragmentation. This makes it relatively better in terms of memory utilization. And disadvantage, because the file blocks are distributed randomly on the disk, a large number of seeks are needed to access every block individually. This makes linked allocation slower. And the second disadvantage of the linked list allocation is it does not support random and direct access. We cannot directly access the blocks of a file. A block K of a file can be accessed by traversing K blocks sequentially and sequential access from the starting block of the file via block pointers. And if there are pointers from block to block, many pointers, it is a little bit complex. So this is the disadvantage of the linked list allocation. And the third one is index allocation. Before we have discussed what is continuous allocation and linked list allocation, and now we're gonna discuss index allocation. In this scheme, a special block known as the index block contains the pointers to all the blocks occupied by a file. Each file has its own index block, and the ith entry in the index block contains the disk address of the ith file block. The directory entry contains the address of the index block as shown in the image. And if by observing the image, here the main index pointer can be the main index block can be contains a pointer that can be uh, identified by the other blocks, which is connected to the main block, which is known as index block. And in the directory we're gonna see it will be as a file name and index block. In indexed file allocation method, the main block is a index block. So for example, we can see from index block there will be several pointers to which is pointing to the parts of the memory blocks which is occupied by the zip file. I mean the file name which is zip, and the second um, and the advantages and disadvantages of the um, indexed allocation are advantages. This supports direct access to the blocks occupied by the file and therefore provides fast access to the file blocks. It overcomes the problem of external fragmentation. Before we have seen the in disadvantages of um, linked list allocation, there will be external fragmentation of the disadvantage, but here it becomes a advantage of the advantage. So coming to the disadvantages, the pointer overhead for indexed allocation is greater than linked allocation. For very small files, say files that expanded only 2-3 blocks, the index allocation would keep one entire index block. For the pointers, which is inefficient in terms of memory utilization. However, in linked allocation, we lose the space of only one per block. But in case of linked allocation, there may be several pointers, so it takes much space in compared to the um, index allocation. Thank you, guys.